David felt the familiar pressure of stress in his chest. He sat at his desk, textbooks piled high, exams loomed, deadlines approached. Each breath felt heavy, each heartbeat a struggle. College had promised freedom, but it felt like a cage. He longed for simpler times, for carefree days. David's gaze fell upon an old family photo. He was 5, grinning ear to ear at a circus. He remembered that day like yesterday. Back then, life was a carousel of wonder, not this crushing weight of responsibility. He wished he could go back, just for a little while, escape the suffocating reality of adulthood. Later that week, David barely passed his exams. Now it was time for him to think about getting a job soon. He scoffed at the thought. David felt something stir inside him. Before he knew it, David de-aged into a little boy, and thankfully his dorm room didn't have a roommate. His boxers and shorts pooled around his feet. David's heart pounded. Could this be real? He had nothing to lose. Walking up to his full-length mirror, he saw himself. He closed and opened his eyes a few times to be sure he wasn't dreaming. His hands were small, his shirt baggy enough to give his privates. His reflection confirmed his greatest fear and his wildest hope. The world was suddenly vast and new. Colors seemed brighter, sounds sharper. He was a child again. The weight of the world, the pressure of the past exams and getting a job, it all vanished. He changed back and went out to a local store to buy children's clothing to fit his new size. After he drove to park near his home, he spent the day playing in the park, the joy of simple pleasures washing over him. For the first time in years, he felt free. But as the sun began to set, he decided to change back in the car, being careful not to be spotted. He drove himself to his home. His parents were shocked. His mother did a screamed, his father stood frozen. After David showed them what he could do now. He tried to explain, but his words came out in childish sounding. They assumed the worst, some strange medical condition. David assured them it was more like a power, but no explanation was found. Days turned into weeks. David clung to his newfound youth, but his parents grew increasingly frustrated. His dad pleaded with him to go back to being college age again. He missed his adult son. His mother, on the other hand, was overjoyed to have her little boy back. Once she got over the shock, he played video games and watched TV most of the time when he wasn't playing outside. He made friends with the local kids and managed to stay out of trouble. Sometimes he overheard his dad trying to convince his mom to see things his way. Section 5. The Law as a Weapon. Tensions finally reached a boiling point. David refused to grow up, to reclaim his abandoned life. His dad, at their wits' end, threatened to send him away. His mother sobbed, her face a mask of despair. "I just want my adult son back," his dad said sternly. David, however, held a trump card. He knew the law. He knew that abandoning a child, even one trapped in a bizarre predicament, was a crime. "You can't get rid of me," he declared, his child's voice laced with a chilling maturity. "If you try, I'll call Child Protective Services." The words hung in the air, a cruel parody of a child's threat. His parents were stunned. Their own son was holding them hostage. Section 6. Back into infancy. The power dynamic had shifted. The parents, once strong and capable, were now at the mercy of their child. David knew he held the upper hand. He reveled in their helplessness at first, their desperate attempts to reason with him. He watched as they grappled with their new reality. Their son was gone, replaced by a child who held the legal right to their care, their resources, their lives. Their home, once filled with laughter and conversation, became a battleground of unspoken resentment, mostly with his dad. His dad walked on eggshells, terrified of triggering a visit from social services, bound by a responsibility, yearning for a freedom that seemed lost forever. David decided to de-age himself even further back, turning himself into a 2-year-old baby. Section 7. A home under siege. Weeks bled into months, each one a stark reminder of their predicament. David not aging beyond a 2-year-old boy. His mother caring for him with love and relaxed when his dad wasn't home. Their adult friends, unaware of the truth, offered platitudes about the terrible twos and the challenges of parenting. His parents would smile and nod, their insides twisting with each empty reassurance. They were living a lie, prisoners in their own home, sometimes hiring a babysitter to get away for a night or two. David, meanwhile, seemed content with his regressive utopia. He played with his old toys, watched old silly cartoons, and didn't mind being treated like a baby again, being bathed in the kitchen sink or taking afternoon naps. He reveled in the simplicity of childhood. He had escaped the pressures of adulthood, but at what cost? Section 8. The Price of Freedom. One evening, David overheard his parents arguing yet again. "It's his fault," his father hissed, his voice raw with exhaustion. "He did this to us." His mother's response was a choked sob. Guilt stabbed at David's heart. Had he gone too far? He had sought escape, but had condemned his parents to a prison of their own? He saw the toll it was taking on them, the dark circles under their eyes, the strained silences, the forced smiles. He had become a burden, a constant source of worry and resentment. Was this the freedom he craved? Section 9. Echoes of Responsibility. That night, David lay in his crib-like bed, staring at the ceiling. He thought of the carefree joy he felt in the park, the weightlessness of childhood. But it felt different now, tainted by the knowledge of his parents' suffering. The burden of responsibility, once suffocating, now felt like a distant ache. Was he willing to bear it again, to reclaim his life, his obligations, his family? Or would he remain forever a child, trapped in the prison of his own making, haunted by the echoes of his parents' sorrow?